introduce the person of eminence, Professor Dr. K. Muthuchelian. Professor Dr. K. Muthuchelian is a world-renowned biology scientist with more than 30 years of teaching and research experience at different hierarchical levels, including professor, head and chairperson, vice chancellor. Currently, he is serving as the pro-vice chancellor at the Anand Sagar University, Bangalore. He obtained his doctoral degree from the School of Biological Sciences, Madurai Kamaraj University, Madurai, India. Subsequently, he had his postdoctoral research from University of Ancona, Italy. He has been conferred with prestigious Doctor of Science in recognition of his research accomplishment on biomass resource management and technology. He has been conferred with several fellowships from prominent foreign and Indian scientific societies, including International Energy Foundation Canada, the National Academy of Biological Sciences, Paleobotanical Society, Zoological Society of India, National Environment Study Academy, and Indian Applied Association for Microbiologists. He has guided over 81 students for research and 4 scholars for postdoctoral program, and 43 candidates have been awarded with a PhD under his supervision. In these 3 decades of research experience with more than 30 research projects with leading international and national organizations including IUCN in Switzerland, ICTP Italy, University of Reading UK, EPA USA, BSA UK, Euroscience France, Third World Network Malaysia, the World Water Council France, the Global Mountain Biodiversity Assessment Switzerland, Instituto di Agrario San Michele Taranto Italy, and Nitrogen Fixing Tree Association Hawaii USA. MAB program and National Biodiversity Authority MOEF and CC. He has published more than 220 research articles, 25 books, 42 book chapters, and more than 500 popular scientific research articles in SCI journal and magazines to attain his H index 23. Notably, he has authored 4 books of Uir Virimam, Biodiversity, the Current Status and Management in Tamil, and these books graciously was released by Honorable Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, former President of India, and His Excellency Dr. K. Roshaya, the Governor and the Chancellor Government of Tamil Nadu, widely appreciated by peace of scientists in the arena. Besides, he also involved in the steering committee in 12th State Planning Commission, Government of Tamil Nadu, and expert member in the Puducherry State Higher Education Council. He served as the chairman of NAGPIR team visits in many institutions across India and an active member for different panel and committees in UGC, DST, MNREC, MOEF, and CC. He received 40 prestigious international national awards into his academic credentials, including the first Indian science honored with the prestigious award by University of Ancona, Italy 1998, Lifetime Achievement Award in the Environmental Science, Food and Nutritional Science and Microbiology, twice the Merit of Excellence Award, Eminent Scientist Award, and Professor S. Kanayan Memorial Award. Tamil Nadu's Best Scientist in the Environmental Science by TNS-CST, the Best Scientist in the Environmental Management by Department of Environment, Government of Tamil Nadu, and he was awarded as the Best Vice Chancellor Award twice by the Indian Red Cross Society Tamil Nadu, and consequently awarded with Best Tamil Book in 2014 for Uir Virimam, and in 2015 for Nulagam Arivalagu Nulaivai in Tamil. The library, a gateway to knowledge by the Department of Tamil and Culture, Government of Tamil Nadu. He has brought academic and administrative reforms for vibrant administration and rigorous academic initiatives in his academic positions at various levels like Vice Chancellor, Pro-Vice Chancellor, Registrar, Controller of Examiner, In Charge and Coordinator for the University with potential of excellence, a grant of 40 crores, member syndicate, Senate and Academic Council at higher educational institutions. During his tenure at Periyar University, in addition to creating a corpus fund of 80 crores, he established 5 new departments, 6 research centers, 4 constituent colleges and 3 government colleges. In addition, he has established several centers, cells including All India Civil Service Examination Free Coaching Center, Health Center, Women's Welfare Center, NET-SCT Free Coaching Cell and Internal Quality Assurance Cell for the benefit of students' community. Further, he explored the possibility of establishing Meta University, the concept of benefiting the students and the scholars to utilize the facility from other institutions. During his tenure at Periyar University, more than 22,000 students have been benefited to the Career Counseling and Placement Cell. In the domain of introducing innovative frontier and academic programs and courses, Dr. Muthuchelian is in the forefront in the higher education learning institutions in the state. Indeed, he has a long-term vision for transforming the academic and administrative systems with vision, mode and approach. His work stands as a monument to the individual. Above all, he is a kind person with noble heart, ready to extend his helping hand to the needy at any time. He has earned a lot of encomium from various people, professionals, colleagues, and from the students also. It may not be out of place to mention here that he is the role model for the young scientist who aspires to reach a higher level. I now request Professor Dr. K. Muthuchelian to enlighten us with the knowledge.
Happy to see you all the viewers of our YouTube channel Make Science Easy with Dr. KMC. Today, as a series of the lectures in our YouTube channel, we are going to see an exciting area of current situation related to the global warming and global climatic change. And we all know that carbon dioxide is a culprit and which causes a lot of the problems to the whole the biospheres, and mainly by the anthropogenic activities. Again, these anthropogenic activities are mainly due to the carbon sources from the fossil fuels, which includes the oil, gas and so on. And related to that, in the early periods of the independence, in the total, the atmospheric, the level of the concentration with reference to the CO2, it was 270 ppm, and during the 80s it was nearly 300 ppm in the atmosphere, and the 90s it's only increased to 330 ppm, and then now after 2000 of the recent period, now in 2020 the level increased to almost 400 ppm of the carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere. So this is a very serious problem, and that's why we have been feeling a warm even in the summer and then in the winter regions, and in the summer regions, seasons, we have to bear the high temperature in the environment. Even within the India, the climatic change, we could observe that recent past, the carbon dioxide and then consequent to the temperature gradient has been increased in an alarming rate because of the carbon dioxide. The temperature, would like to mention here, in the same, in the 1948 it was around 27 degrees Celsius in the ambient level, and now almost the level has been increased to minimum 32 degrees Celsius in the south. And then during summer peak periods of the March, April, May, June, and even till to the July, on the onset of the monsoon, it has been increased to maximum to a 42 degree in some places of the southern districts of the Tamil Nadu, and then northern districts of the Tamil Nadu, again it has been increased to 42, 44, and even sometimes 45 to the maximum we recorded. But unlike these, in the northern states, I think we could observe that it is more than 45 degrees Celsius. It looks like a Sahara. The temperature even occurred in the most of the regions in the northern the states of the India. So all these are belong to a simple the compound they call the carbon. So the carbon, by rapid use in the transportation and then various other sectors, the CO2 is released as a main component from the combustion process, and this CO2 has been a serious problem in threat to the humankind, not only the humankind and altogether the biodiversity of the earth. So every country has been realized this situation, and then how to I mean, sequester the carbon dioxide is a great solution, and again, it is a great challenge to all the government. That's why most of the international forums have been and meet, and then they used to discuss about the CO2, the levels, and then how to sequester the levels in every country for the as a global solution. So today we are going to study the importance of the CO2 sequestration, how to sequester the carbon dioxide of level of the 400. Even the projections, I mean, I have mentioned in one of my lecture in the climate change, these 400 ppm may rise in the again in 2030 and then 2050 to a level of maximum 450 ppm. So I think there will be a problem even due for the common respiration of the both animals and the human, and how we are going to, I mean, lead the life, and also how we are going to, I mean, manage the situation of the next generation for simply want of the oxygen. So here we are going to see the CO2 sequestration, and as mentioned, so this is the issue. This is a current issue everywhere in every country. I've been talking about the global warming and then global climate change and so on. And you can see that in every journal, in every magazine, in every media, and also in the print media, we have been talking about this serious issue. So there is a new and stronger evidence that most of the global warming observed over the last 50 years is attributable to the human activities. So the meeting held on 2001 onwards, the Intergovernmental Panel and subjecting the climate change of this one, what are the policy, etc. they have discussed, and since from 2000 onwards, we have been finding a solution for this. So why are these greenhouse gases important? So global ecological concern is not an individual concern, it's a global problem, as I mentioned. Concern for the anthropogenic source of the increasing level of the carbon dioxide concentration, or any other the greenhouse gas composition, since from 1750 onwards, and that was projected in the IPCC even started during 2001. So the carbon dioxide level almost started from 31% increase, and methane 151 percentage, and then N2O 17%. So these are all the increasing trend we observed, and it has been reported in the 2001 itself. So it all caused the radioactive forcing of the atmosphere, which would alter the global temperature and ecosystem functioning. There is a relation. So it can be manipulated by the human activities. As I mentioned, the global concern is in the air. Yes, because of these three composition of the greenhouse gases, one is the carbon dioxide, another one is the methane, and then other one is the nitrous oxide. So all these are related to the radioactive forcing effect. This is measured from the 1000 to the 2000 onwards. So you could see that up to 1800 and 1850, I think there was almost in stable condition. Only after beginning of the 2000 and year started increasing of all the temperature, and then the various CO2 concentration, and then the methane, the N2O. So this radioactive the forcing is changed, increasing in trend in all the three gases with relevance to the global level in the air. So what we worry is we will make gasoline, ethanol out of plants. So this is one of the alternatives. And then we have got 3 trillion and then BBF, the billion barrel oil in 400 billion tons in the oil shale we have in our Indian subcontinent. So we will burn hydrogen instead of the other sources of fossil fuels. Whenever we burn hydrogen, it's completely clean, and otherwise we can say that it is eco-friendly. And then the CO2 causing global warming, we know that. So we will all just pump it underground. That's the only solution called the carbon sequestration. So we are going to study in depth about this, the carbon sequestration process. So why have the CO2 level increased? I think these are the some of the points. So first one is the fossil fuel combustion, and the combustion is mainly because of the industries, number one, and then number two, the vehicles, and then second one is the land use changes and practices, and then including the tillage of the changes in the land in agricultural field, and then also to our tropical, the deforestation or the clearing of the forest. So these are the CO2 level of the mechanism increasing in the earth. So what is the population and lifestyle are the regard as the are the drivers. So in 10 minutes during this presentation, you can imagine that 60 babies will be born in the US, and 244 babies in China, and 351 in India. So the population now, I think you could say it is increasing like anything. You can see the crowded population of this. Again, in that after in 2050, 2050, I think we will have double the population of what we are having now. That's what the projection by the various organizations. So the altogether which is the global carbon flows. So here the annual carbon flows because of the various anthropogenic activities, and then I mentioned there's the fossil fuels, and then land use change and the tropical deforestation. Almost they constitute mostly more than 30% we have mentioned individually. And then we saw the atmospheric increase of the CO2, I mean in the translated in the level from the sources, carbon sources, and then in the sink, a terrestrial, I mean in a temperate region, and then ocean, and then missing. It's almost. So they have given the projection of the what is the annual the carbon flows in gigatons carbon. Gigatons carbon they measure that. So what is the rate on all those things they have mentioned is from starting from the fossil fuels maximum and then to the various sources. So altogether the carbon sequestration is the only solution. So what is mean by carbon sequestration? So in the carbon sequestration, which refers to removing the carbon dioxide from industrial streams and storing it in some fashion so as to mitigate the build-up of CO2 in the atmosphere. So it is a clean mechanism how to offset or how to sequester the carbon dioxide which are released from the various sources. Again, it's also from the industrial streams and etc. and how to mitigate, and finally how to build a level down by storing it in a various fashion in various levels. So these are the various, I think even the projection states from the IPCC late after 2001, a marginal position of the carbon and the sequestration starts from the various sources they have mentioned with reference to the carbon. I think it's very, very important. It's huge in terms of the percentage of the total. Then according to the recent estimate 2020, soil contains nearly 1,500 gigatons of organic carbon in the first top the 1 meter of the soil profile. So in the soil, that's a level very near to the soil earth crust, almost at 1 meter of the level the soil contains 1,500 gigatons of the organic carbon. So it is higher than 560 gigatons of carbon that is found in the biotic pool, and which is twice more than the atmospheric CO2. So I think what it contains, soil, and what is related to that in the biotic pool, and what is the equivalence to the in reference to the atmospheric CO2 concentration. So by holding this, the soil is preventing carbon dioxide built up in the atmosphere, which will compound the problem of the climate change. It's a very serious phenomena for that. So that's why we require the carbon sequestration, and this is a natural process. CO2 is removed from atmosphere by plants. That is only the natural mechanism via photosynthesis. So during photosynthesis process, carbon dioxide is trapped and absorbed, and there it is stored as the photostate, as a biomass in the above ground, and then lower part is called as the the below ground biomass, both altogether. Finally, it reaches to the soil, which is called as the soil organic matter. So, the plant material converted into organic matter, either it is the above ground or the below ground, through the microbial biochemical reaction, and finally and ultimately stored in the soil. So, here the long-term storage of the carbon can be think of in the terrestrial biosphere, number one, and then underground in the geologic formation, and three oceans. So these are the long-term storage of the carbon in the natural the earth crust, and so that built-up of the CO2 will reduce or slow. And so this may be accomplished by how? Maintaining or enhancing the natural processes, and then developing novel technique to dispose the carbon. So these are the only method, either natural or we have to find a novel technique to dispose the carbon. So how the terrestrial carbon sequestration occurs in the earth. So number one, I think is everybody knows that the net fixation of the atmospheric CO2 by the terrestrial vegetation and by the process or the emphasis on enhancing the physiology and rate of photosynthesis of the plants. So this is one way we can sequester. And then number two, so only thing we have to increase the efficiency of the photosynthesis by trapping more and more of the carbon dioxide and then convert into the matter, organic matter. So already I think our laboratory has also worked since from 1980 onwards under the biomass project, and we worked that a lot of already tropical trees are available to trap more CO2 in the atmosphere, and that by it store the carbon as the biomass. So we have also identified these. There are efficient trees are there, and even these trees sometimes can adapt to more than 350 ppm of the carbon dioxide in the tropical climate. So next the second point is the retaining carbon in plant materials. So this is another terrestrial carbon sequester method, and enhancing the transformation of the carbon to soil organic matter is the second step. Third is the reducing the emission of CO2 from soil. So that we have to counteracted, and which caused by the heterotrophic oxidation of the soil organic matter. The third step we can sequester. And fourth one, increasing the capacity of the deserts and degraded lands to sequester carbon. So these are the fourth point. So these are the four mechanisms which is essential for the terrestrial carbon sequestration. So this is the various phenomena of the how in the global level, in the top above the earth what it happens, and how the photosynthesis are occurring, and from that how the organic matter comes to the ground, and then also from various sources how the carbon comes through that, either by the biological nitrogen fixation, and then fertilizers, plant respiration, then animal respiration. All are the additions of the carbon dioxide to the level at the above ground level. Then later, once it dissolves to that, the CO2 will come as the fossil fuels, I think through the dissolved CO2 in the water, and then some matter can be chemically converted into the carbonate minerals will come down to that and to the earth, and then carbon input also, and then again by the vegetation as a soil organic matter which contains, and then inside that a lot of processes are happening, and then also some extent that the animal respirated CO2 also either released to the atmosphere, and also some can be comes through the air through the pores of the soil and all this process. So it's a complex process of the carbon cycling happens in the global level on the earth. So what are the problems related to the land use changes? So land use changes which generate carbon sequestration include. So what is the problem? Number one, what we can do best. So when we reduce the deforestation, so naturally the land will have a potential one, and then we can have a carbon sequestration in a proper way. And then next step is to sequester carbon is the generated increased forest stocks. So more of the vegetation. For that we have to expand the forestry plantations, and then adopting agroforestry, social forestry. So any type of the reforestation or afforestation activities, so that above the level of the ground or the earth, that will have the capacity to trap the more of the CO2, and then again it will store in the biomass as a organic matter. So this is one way method, as one of the best method in natural by carbon sequestration. And then next is the reducing soil degradation I mentioned, and then rehabilitating the degraded lands, and finally the adoption of the low bar zero tillage systems. So these are the effective processes which are occur naturally, that we have to increase or improve the system for the carbon sequestration in a proper way. So the carbon sequestration is a win-win solution. So when we, do this carbon sequestration, so what are the benefits to the environment? So when we, adopt this technology or the strategy, so normally it has a variety of the benefits, which starts from the water holding capacity increase, cation exchange increase, then reduce the soil erosion, improve the water quality, improve the infiltration, and then less runoff, decreased soil compaction, improved soil tilt and structure, and then reduce the air pollution, reduce the power requirement, reduce the machinery there. So all together we have variety of environmental benefits, including what the reduced fertilizer inputs. Once you have the organic matter on the earth, that doesn't require the extra source of the fertilizer, then increase the soil buffer capacity because of the organic addition, and increase the biological activity, then increase of the nutrient cycling and storage, more of the carbon, nitrogen and other associated process inside that, increasing the water cycle, then increase the diversity of the microflora. Altogether biodiversity will increase, and then land value, and give soil aesthetic appeal, increase capacity to handle the manure, and ultimately more of the biodiversity which I mentioned, which includes the forest, wildlife and etc. So the carbon is here is a central role. It's like an axis. Okay, it takes major role in the environmental benefit. That's why we said the carbon sequestration is a win-win solution. So soil carbon is part of the global carbon pool. So the atmosphere has nearly 750 gigatons. The soil organic matter contains 1400, and then soil inorganic contains 930, and then living vegetation is contains 760 the gigatons. So these are the amount of carbon in the soils of the earth. It's about 3 times the amount of the atmosphere. So how much carbon is in the soil? Here the soil organic source of the carbon is 1550 petagram, and then soil inorganic carbon 750 petagram, and total altogether both forms of the organic and inorganic together we have 2300 petagrams, and atmosphere we have 720, and then biota 560, ocean 38,000 petagrams. So here the ocean has the highest amount of the accumulation of the carbon in the source. So soil organic pool is averaging that 40 to 100 the mg per hectare in average. So here the soil organic carbon is the largest which is equal to the 15 into 1014 kg carbon reservoir at the earth's surface. So here the earth's surface or the reservoir, which corresponds to the facility to increase what? The photosynthesis, increased moisture, directly increase atmospheric CO2 by decreasing the soil organic decomposition rates, and also increase the temperature. So these are the reservoir of the soil organic matter at the earth's surface. So we have ignored soil organic carbon because we think it is dead biomass. So there is consumption, and it's directly dependent on the amount of live biomass. So it neglects the following consideration. So I think we have to take care of this one. Why? Because the increased oxidation of soil organic carbon, so CO2 by the cultivation of the live lands. So naturally it reduces soil organic carbon by 1/3 and convert into CO2. So increased temperature which accelerates the soil organic carbon decay rates that I mentioned in the earlier slide. Then conversion of forest to other land uses. Then decreased rainfall will convert to soil organic carbon into carbon dioxide by raising temperature and the aerobiosis. So we have almost we can say that it is a neglects with the following it will happen. So it is the negative concentration. Then next is the conversely soil can remove the CO2 from the atmosphere by accumulating the soil organic carbon beyond receiving the increased the net primary production via what increased rainfall, again which lowers the soil temperature and decreases CO2 diffusion rates, and minimum or no tillage agriculture which should increase the soil organic carbon, and increasing atmospheric CO2 can repress soil organic the carbon degradation rates. So these are the experiments conducted by various scientists in various conditions of the earth. What are the content? What are the content in terms of the various plantation level and soil organic carbon the constitutes in the natural plantation and in also in the plantations and in the natural forest. So how much we can say that soil organic carbon up to 30 centimeter of the depth we have been calculated and then we have measured is a ton per hectare. I think we have the deodar has 392, Sirpine 338, spruce 280, and then Gale 272, and then Crocus 360 tons per hectare, and then plantations also having one, and then teak plantations we have nearly 68 tons per hectare. So these are some of the, and then eucalyptus 99.6 soil organic carbon in terms of tons per hectare up to 30 centimeter of the depth of the soil in which these trees are grown. So the organic carbon stored in some of the Indian soils up to 30 centimeter we measured in the various types of soil with reference to red soil, laterite, alluvial, brown forest, and then saline and alkali and black soil, and altogether we measured that the area in hectares, soil organic carbon storage in tons per hectare, and the total soil organic carbon content, how much is that. So the red soil has a more soil organic carbon stored nearly 4.80, and minimum is in the black the soil, and I think rest in between the ranges, and also the brown forest has the maximum as equal to the red soil nearly 4.0 gigatons. So these are the values of the organic carbon stored in some of the Indian soils up to the 30 centimeter of the depth from the above ground level. So here the soil organic carbon stored under different land uses, and different land uses in India, again it is measured up to 30 centimeter of the depth with reference to the forest, agriculture, pasture land, and then barren land. And again here the forests are having the highest in terms of the storage capacity in 9.00 gigatons we have, and then next is the agriculture 6, and then the pasture 0.44, and then barren land 0.37. So the greenhouse gases mitigation potential of the different land uses with reference to barren land as base we have measured here, and altogether the mitigation potential of the greenhouse gases mentioned here is the maximum. I think mitigation is occurred only in the forest 6, and then agroforestry 4.18, and then plantations 4.02, agriculture 3.30, pasture 2, and then barren land 1. So here the forest lands having with high in terms of the plants and then the richness of the species, so it has a lot of impact on the mitigation potential because the plants, the trees, the aerial, the vegetation which has a high capacity to trap the carbon dioxide, and finally the mitigation potential is very high, and also the soil organic carbon storage also very high in consequent to the mitigation potential. It was 120 tons per hectare in the forest, which is highest than the barren land. So barren land is the minimum in terms of the soil organic carbon because there is no vegetation, there is no cover of the litters on the forest floor. Naturally it has the less of the soil organic carbon storage up to the level of the 30 centimeter in depth. So next is the Dalbergia, the plants, the various plantations we have notified. What is the level of the carbon sequestration after the afforestation when we planted. I have mentioned the Dalbergia species, Prosophis juliflora, and eucalyptus, the hybrid, and then altogether the carbon storage tons per hectare was increased in 253.14, and then followed by in 68 and then 19.46. So I think you have, once you have the forestation, so you have a lot of the carbon storage in that area. So soil carbon, the estimates in the different forest soils with reference to the various species, and then we have given the, what are the various the vegetation in the ecosystem, and then we measure the soil iron carbon with reference to the various levels. The level we measured in between 84 and 94 statistics, which projected that I think the conifers are having maximum change in that and followed by the others. So here positive changes in soil carbon store has been due to the positive change in the area under different species except in conifers, mangrove and the sun. So next is the mean residence time. The mean residence time of the carbon in different pools. What is the residence times which has persisted in the at the carbon level in the various vegetation? So normally the average atom of the carbon spends about 5 years in the atmosphere. That is the maximum, and 10 years in the case of the vegetation, which includes trees also, and 35 years in the soil, and 100 years in the sea. So this is the maximum, the residence time of the carbon in different pools. So I think the sea has a high retention of having the residence times of the carbon more than 100 years. So the residence times we calculate as the pool about the flux. So the flux which relates to the carbon mainly. So the residence time is longer in soils of the high altitude in conclusion. So normally carbon dioxide are stored in different sources in the experimental way, very deep, and in soils, and then in the biomass, as in other than the biomass, forest, and then polar region, the storage, the shallow ocean, and deep ocean, coral beds, and oil and gas fields. So these are the general the storage of the carbon dioxide in various the media or living cell status. So soils, carbon is normally quickly released from soil, and as this natural environment store more than and the agricultural environments, soils. So unplowed land stores more than the plowed one. You could see the differences in the vegetation of the soil carbon. And the polar storage is the ice caps and the permafrost, and then potential for release with the warming. Then biomass here, the CO2 store is a forest storage with great but not nearly enough capacity. And in addition to that, algal growth and the food and fuel we have been using, and then ocean biomass, fertilization with the nutrients, and then stimulation with the iron. So these are the CO2 stored in the biomass, and then also have been stored in the deep ocean, which occurs maximum here, and then deep coal beds also. A lot of surface area is there where the high storage, and which displaces methane for enhanced recovery later. And then oil and gas fields is being practiced in some areas, requires a lot of energy, which can be enhanced the oil recovery also. So these are the natural strategies to reduce the atmospheric CO2. The strategy one is the reduce fossil fuel combustion. The other one is to identify the sink of this carbon dioxide and sequester rate. So in this we have the terrestrial, aquatic and geologic, and in the terrestrial we have the soil and plants. But here in the strategies 2 will be reduce fossil fuel combustion, so improve the existing efficiency of the many engines etc., and then we can have an alternative to the fossil is the renewable energy sources like solar, wind, bio and so on. So these are the simplest the strategies to reduce the atmospheric CO2. So here we have how the ocean and the disposal of the CO2, and how the underground injection of the various source of the CO2 through into the core volume of the inside the earth. So the management approaches to sequester carbon from atmosphere to the biosphere has been focused on the what number one is the maximizing carbon input in the plants. So here we have to select the species, cultivar variety which are having the high in terms of the sequester of carbon dioxide, and then we have to analyze the growth habit of the plants, either perennial or annual plant system, and then rotation sequence, biomass energy crops, as I mentioned. Naturally, the biomass plantations which are having a high in terms of the carbon sequestration rate, as mentioned, and then tillage also we have to avoid, and then type and frequency, and fertilization rate, timing, placement, organic amendments, and then also we have to take care of the maximizing the integrated management and avoiding the pest control, and then the crop and livestock systems. So, management of the approaches to sequester the soil or carbon from the atmosphere to the biosphere, as I mentioned, focus on minimizing the carbon loss from the soil, which means reducing soil disturbance, that should be avoided, and then utilizing available soil water, and then maintaining the soil surface residue cover. So these are important points for the how to focus the minimizing the carbon loss from the soil. These are the preconditions. And then next is the how to counter the land degradation. So I think these lands should be recovered and then reclaimed for that by planting the trees, and then conserve the whole soil system by tillage cropping, and then annual manure application we have to do, and then by growing the green crops cover for the green manure, and which can also substitute for the nitrogen to the crops, and then improved grassland management for the effective soil organic matter deposition, litter, and then finally to the mineralization process, and then cropland grazing land rotations. So I think this has to call the pasture, the crop pasture, the interconversion systems, and the simultaneous of maintaining both the ecosystem, and then again is the optimal fertilization. There should not be a high dose of the nitrogenous fertilizers or the carbon containing fertilizers rich source to the application to the soil, which all will have a problem to that later. So these are one of the effective the management practice to sequester carbon dioxide and counter land degradation further. So what they have mentioned is the tree planting. So tree planting is the only solution, either way of the afforestation or reforestation or social afforestation or the energy plantations. So the issues are important that what will change is that climate and selected adapted species to the condition, and then soil condition improve. The plant density has to consider for that, and then even the density of the species will have the more effect on the carbon addition from the trapping through the CO2 from the atmosphere and storing in the biomass, then intended use, types of intercropping. So this all we have to take well in care for the soil organic matter in a proper way. Then conservation of the tillage. So the minimal disturbances of the soil surface is very, very critical in avoiding the soil organic matter loss from the erosion and microbial decomposition in that. So next is the improved agricultural practices. So I think we have to do the main how to maintain the soil organic carbon in a homeostatic way, in a balanced way, is conservation of the buffers in the area agricultural land, and then cover crops should be always to be practiced in the agro ecosystem, and then conservation of the tillage, then improved rotations. So normally the crop rotation should be done, not always a monoculture type of the agricultural practices. And then here the crop management strategies for the carbon sequestration mentioned in the management of the carbon development is the how to enhance the carbon inputs and reduce the carbon levels. All these we have to done in the proper crop management, and then proper crop selection, and then I said crop plantations, reduce the carbon losses, tillage, and then follow management. So altogether we have to do the effective agricultural practices, management practices in the cultivation process of any crop that should be efficiently done, unless it's very difficult to manage the soil organic carbon balance in the atmosphere. So this is one of the statistics how the carbon sequestration potential of the soils is equal to 2 billion barrels per year, and I think what is the oil equivalent and everything, they balance that 1 ton of the carbon is equal to 1370 liter of oil, which is equal to 6.2 the billion barrel of the diesel. So potential of global soil carbonic sequestration occurs in the level in the global level is 1 to 2 pg and 1 to 2 pg carbon per year, or 24% of the total emissions by the fossil fuel combustion. So this is the potential global the soil carbon sequestration as of now measured. So 24% of the total emissions by fossil fuel combustion is the rate. And in soil, the carbon sequestration is a free lunch. Is it a free lunch? No, not really. So in additional, the NPS etc. are needed for humidification of the residue of the carbon sources. So they are also a hidden carbon cost of the RMPs. So how can these increasing levels be reduced or stabilized? So potentially there is a wide range of ways to reduce the emissions of greenhouse gases, as I think we have seen also. So what we require is the improving the energy efficiency, switching to low carbon fuel, and then switching no carbon fuels, and then preventing CO2 from fossil fuel combustion and building up in the atmosphere. So again, this is one of the strategy. Some of the strategies we have to adopt, unless I think it's very difficult to stabilize the level of the carbon dioxide or level of the carbon in the environment. So all we have is the win-win solution. So payment for the adoption of the land use systems which generate sequestration have been treated as a win-win solution, rooted through win-win solution, where both environmental and poverty reduction goals can only be attained, but some land use changes which leads to what is called as the CS can lead to the increased poverty, and some poverty reduction measures may conflict with carbon sequestration or be less efficient than the other types of the land use changes as source of the climate change mitigation. So altogether what required is the request is the information. So information of the trade offsets and energies synergies between the poverty alleviation and the carbon and the CS essential for the carbon sequestration essential for the designing projects which generate both. So carbon offset credits have been realized after the Agenda 21. Your carbon offset is as defined as an amount of carbon withdrawn from the atmosphere by storage in vegetation either or in the soil for sufficient time to compensate for atmospheric warming. So this is what we are telling as the definition for the carbon offset. So almost most of the developing countries have started and given stress for the carbon offset the strategy, and India also we have signed in the Kyoto Protocol, and I think we are also one of the leading countries which have been taken very serious in the carbon offset problems in this India. And then mechanisms being developed for exchange of carbon emission offset credits. The one, as I mentioned, the clean development mechanism of the Kyoto Protocol, which I mentioned. I think several mechanisms, the mechanism, flexible mechanism available. One which is mentioned is the how to convert the CO2 into a storage form. So, and then biocarbon fund also under the World Bank is available. Those who are voluntarily coming for the afforestation or the reforestation or any type of the forested activities, they can get the fund for creation of the forest trees in a bulk of the quantity of the plantation. And already the voluntary agreements between major developed countries and groups of farmers in developing countries, including the plan the WIGO system, and we already enforced, and a lot of countries have been investing for this grant to aid for the various the voluntary organization and also through the governments for establishing the clean development mechanism, especially for the carbon emission offset credits. So who will be eligible for that? And then World Bank is taking serious steps for that, and they have the strategy and the work plan for identification of the CDM. And what next is the Kyoto Protocol. What should be done for the then IPCC? It recommended to divide the greenhouse gas emissions by a factor 2 or 3 to avoid going beyond the level of the CO2 atmosphere, that is the 540 ppm of the CO2 what I mentioned. Of course, now we have 400 ppm range here. And then what is being considered is the European decision. They have mentioned that 8% reduction under Kyoto to 20% by 2020, and 30% if USA join. And what is still missing is the commitment to the carbon sequestration. So still this countries has to come forward for the offset of the carbon dioxide or for the carbon sequestration in the environment. Of course, there are some barriers are there in the carbon sequestration to CO2e markets, but all this will be on debate. We can largely think, and then we can solve the problems or constraints whatever having in the implementing the project. So these are ultimately what we are thinking of the net zero carbon economy. So from the source of the CO2 from the concentrated, and then from the CO2 extraction in the air, altogether we have to find a permanent and safe disposal through the geological storage in the underground, and then mineral carbonate disposal. These are the two mechanisms we have been thinking to the net zero carbon economy in the countries. And then what we are requiring is the zero emission principle and avoiding all those carbon addition from the power plant and then by the various usage of the fossil fuels, etc. So the recommendations. So what to do for the carbon sequestration of the every individual and every the research institution, every scientist group, and every the governments, both federal and the state governments, and what to need for that. So number one, need to inform the international debate on carbon sequestration in agriculture and forestry, because these are the two main natural the sink of the carbon dioxide, and through this the ecosystem. And next is the need for training and capacity building to promote carbon sequestration in agriculture and forestry in the developing countries, and a need to scale up agricultural and forestry projects with carbon sequestration, and a need to start developing carbon sequestration in the developed countries also, and a need to promote the no tillage as one of the best ways to enhance soil carbon sequestration, and the need to combine carbon sequestration with biomass energy. I think altogether the biomass energy plantation in agroforestry projects that we have to enhance, and then need to simplify the methodologies for baseline scenarios and carbon measuring and monitoring. The need to incorporate the deforestation avoidance, that is most important, especially for the tropical countries in the carbon sequestration projects, and then in the developing countries. So altogether what we require is the win-win solution. So win-win is the carbon sequestration market incentive to contribute to the enhancing agriculture productivity and sustainability. So enhance carbon sequestration in both developed and developing countries through projects, policy and measures. So what is the bridge? So a bridge to the future is the carbon sequestration in soil and vegetation is a bridge to the future. That is the only future. So soil to the vegetation and vegetation to the soil. So this is the only bridge to that, to avoid all this sequestration, the rates, and it buys us time while alternatives to fossil fuel take effect, definitely. So it is a good thing to do regardless of what happens to the climate. So it is truly, as I mentioned, that a final is the win-win-win strategy. Thank you. Thank you for patient hearing. Thanks one all.